purpose of an issue brief is to be able to distill a ton of scientific information objectively into a simple two-page format so that someone that isn't as versed in the actual science can read it and understand it and know the main argument points on both sides of a contentious issue.
Issue briefs actually documents which cater to a larger audience outside of the scientific community. And so what this basically means is policymakers are very busy people. They need to know the facts and the research and science behind an issue in order to make appropriate or good decisions for policy. And for this, they need that information which is unbiased, to the point, concise, and easy to read. I think what makes an issue brief really compelling is a few things, one of which is timeliness. If it happens to be on a topic that is of interest at that very moment, given public interest or policymakers' interest for other reasons, this is something which would definitely be very interesting and someone would want to read it. The other thing is you have to be sure that you write it in a way that a lay person from any background can understand it.
Legislators are under a lot of time pressure, and so it has to be something that's short, concise, to the point.
Issue briefs are effective if they are neutral, that they're just the facts without the additional layer of advocacy on top. And I think that lawmakers value that, given the amount of advocacy and slanted, maybe say, information that they receive. They like having something they can trust as just the facts.
An issue brief is going to be made up of a couple key parts. So overall, the biggest thing is that it's plain language. You don't need to be an expert in any sort of area to be able to understand its contents. And it's going to give you a little bit of background on the subject, kind of a status of where that policy and where that topic is in the current legislature or in public perception and public opinion. And then it also will give you some things that you may not know. So if there's pros and cons to passing new legislature, or if there's other statistics that you need to know about the impacts of what a program's done, then those sorts of things would be included too. And then the last thing that's going to be in there are kind of a set of policy options. So not necessarily saying this is the best option, but giving the reader a sense of here are some potential possibilities and outcomes that based on the information that they've read in the brief, they can decide which one seems like the best option for them.
And it basically involves the latest research which can actually impact the question or the research or the issue which is being included. An issue brief is usually organized in a few sections. We start off with a 4 to 5 line summary of what the entire 2-page document is. And what the summary really is just a snapshot, takeaway messages, which is key. If someone's really busy and they have literally 1 minute to read it, that's what they should get out of it, is those 4 lines or 5 lines. So it should be impactful, it should be to the point, concise, and easy to understand for anyone from any background. Following this summary, we have a general introduction which really, to be honest, is why should anyone care about this issue? Why is it an issue to the general public or to policymakers? An introduction and background to your topic, and then the actual facts or research on the topic which has been provided by backing it with scientific literature. And then eventually at the end you kind of conclude and come to, without giving your own personal opinion, but you kind of conclude and bring all the points together to speak about how that entire issue comes together. And this all is supported by references.
The policymakers oftentimes are voting and making decisions on behalf of a lot of these really important issues that have a lot of depth of research and information available. And it's really important to teach students to translate that knowledge into language that a policymaker or a constituent can understand.
Put it into a simpler language that's easy to read, more bulleted points, more bold statements in bold, headers, that kind of thing, just to be attention grabbing so that people can see the key points very quickly.
Part of being in this class really taught me You want to be able to show everybody's different perspectives, but you want to be able to do that on an equal footing.
The other main problem with an issue brief is trying to find a way to take 30 plus papers worth of scientific knowledge and turn them into a language that fits, and a language that is genuinely unbiased and doesn't actually allow for your biases to show through, even though you have a certain opinion. It's impossible not to have an opinion on a subject.
Graduate students get a very immediate experience in having to explain why something matters. And the earlier you get that, the better.
I find that the practice of being able to distill down this knowledge into usable bite-sized pieces that can transcend across different political groups, different economic statuses, and different educational levels will benefit me greatly as I move throughout my career.
I thought I would do it as kind of a one-off thing and be done with it. It's definitely something where I would be wanting to do more of these. The process to me was possibly even more interesting than the outcome and having that final brief.
I think it's valuable not only for students, but for faculty as well, for anybody to be involved in this process, because it helps you think about what goes on at the legislature as the legislators are trying to make these decisions about regulations that affect our lives.